Hey Kev, let's follow this trail over here. This looks like there might be something waiting down there.
All right. Hey, wait a minute. Do you hear that?
Yeah, I thought it was just me. What the heck is that?
I don't know what that is. Whoa, do you smell that too?
That's unbelievable. Hey, look.
What the?
Hey, look, those branches are moving over there.
What the heck is that?
Holy cow, is that what I think it is? Look at that thing.
Oh my God.
It's a freaking Sasquatch. Welcome to the Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters podcast. Christmas edition, my friends. I am your host, W.J. Sheehan, author of the series of books Bigfoot Terror in the Woods Sightings and Encounters. Oodles of volumes available for your listening and reading pleasure at Audible and Amazon. So have at it, my friends. And now, may I introduce you to my Christmas co-host and brother, K.J. Sheehan. Kev, how are you?
I'm doing great, not to be confused with Chris Kringle. Or the Burgermeister Burger.
Ja, mein Host.
There will be no toys this Christmas.
You nasty little Krampus bastard, you.
Oh, you're getting ahead of yourself there. But yeah, Bill, it's going great. You know, I mean, we're getting real close to Christmas. And honestly, you know, not that it snuck up on me, but November was a quick one because, one, I was so busy. And then Thanksgiving, you know, fell a little bit closer to the beginning of December than it normally does.
Uh-huh.
And so all of a sudden, you know, we're right here coming up on Christmas, one of my favorite times of year, probably my favorite time of year, honestly.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And for what reason?
Because it's the birth of Jesus Christ. It's super cool, though. You know, I was out on the beach tonight, Bill. I sent you a picture. I don't know if you saw it.
I didn't see it yet. What did you send it to?
Well, I texted it to you.
Oh, okay. I'll pick up on it.
But I'm walking down the beach, folks, the Atlantic Ocean here in North Carolina, and it is so beautiful. It was like 5:30 at night on a Friday night. I'm walking down the beach. There is not a person within miles on the beach. It's not that cold. All the stars are out. I'm looking at Venus to the south of me, Bill, bright as anything.
Wow.
In the sky. I mean, it looked like the Star of Bethlehem.
Yep.
And then over my left shoulder, over the Atlantic, was Jupiter and Saturn. And everything's just beautiful. Just spectacular.
Just popping in the sky. You know, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm walking down through the sand. You know, I'm thinking a little bit about the Three Kings walking through the sand. I didn't have a camel with me, though.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. And, you know, I'm a lector for Christmas Eve. So
very good.
I just really enjoy being involved or more involved in the service than just a bystander, you know.
You're not going to sneak a little Bigfoot in there again, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm not going to. But
I had to say again, just for laughs. Obviously, my brother hasn't previously, to my knowledge at least, although I am 600 miles away, talked about Bigfoot while lecturing the scripture. Maybe it was a psalm, a recital.
Well, you know, and if you can imagine it, I tend to dramatize the readings. Hard to believe, but true.
Yeah, not hard to believe.
You know, not really. I felt that when I got involved, I said, I felt that I had an obligation to break the snide of doing these readings like it's a newspaper article out of the Sunday Newsday or something, you know?
No, like Charlie Brown's teacher. Amen.
That was a good one, man. I forgot all about that. It's been a long time since I watched that.
Man, you got to watch it, man. Linus does the reading of Matthew's scripture. It's fantastic.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, you got to watch Charlie Brown Christmas.
Yeah. When is that on? Do you know?
You just got to Google it.
Okay.
There's no such thing as when it's on. You can watch it whenever you want. You just gotta
that's
find
true.
it.
I could just pull it up online.
Just find it.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
So what do we have, Kev, for this Christmas podcast and our cryptids in the news?
We've got a potpourri of Christmas. But first, we start with a choice, Bill.
Okay.
And I'll give you a little recommendation, too, of which way I'm leaning, but I'm willing to go the other way on this one.
Okay.
So, of course, as our tradition, we have a reading of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, greatly adapted to include Sasquatch and other cryptids.
Okay.
And then we're going to talk about some creepy Christmas cryptids.
Well, I say let's start off with the Sasquatch Christmas.
With 'Twas the Night Before Christmas?
Yes.
That was my recommendation, because at some point we're going to have to steer the kiddies away because the cryptids are quite creepy.
Oh, no, let the little children listen. Kev, I got to tell you something right as we're getting going here. So you weren't born at this time. But Mom and Dad used to have a couple of friends in Queens. Their last name was Bills, like mine, Bills.
Oh, yeah, well, that was my...
godparent, right?
Godparents,
right.
Yeah.
And so we're over, and by the way, it was Bill Bills and Bill Bills Jr. Figure that one out.
Is that crazy or what?
Yeah. And so they brought me over their house in Queens one night, and I don't know how old I was, a little boy. And they sat me down on a sofa in front of a black and white TV set, which was apropos at the time. And they're all mixing drinks for each other and walking around. Bill Bills is smoking, Pell Mells or whatever. And I'm sitting there, and on the TV, they had the original Frankenstein. And I'm a little kid, and I had never seen anything like this before. And as I'm sitting there in front of me, it was the scene when Boris has the close-up, and he's coming at the TV with his arms extended. I just remember being so scared. Like looking around like, what are you doing to me?
What are you making me watch this for?
Everybody is laughing and whatnot, and I'm sitting there like ready to poop myself.
Bill, we're going to go on a little bit of a tangent here, but don't worry, folks. We're getting back to Christmas because I don't think I ever told you this story either. So that's a classic from our parents' archives, like setting you up with the original Frankenstein. Do you know what the first movie is that I saw in a movie theater?
Was it in the Center East Theater?
No, it was with Mom and Dad in the drive-in. What was the one called up by the Smith Haven Mall? Smithtown Drive-In.
Smithtown Drive-In, yeah.
Yeah.
First movie you ever saw.
So I'm 5 years old.
Right.
And so, Bill, my bride, she grew up in a sheltered life compared to you and I.
Yeah.
We grew up, folks, in the OK Corral. We did okay, but literally we were in the OK Corral. And I told my wife when I met her, she's like, oh, what's the first movie you saw? And she was like, oh, Bambi, and it was quite traumatic when the deer got shot. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's traumatic. What movie do you think I saw?
All right, I'm going to take a guess. It can't be this one because it would be too late.
Yeah. You probably won't guess it. And, folks, you probably won't know this movie.
Mark of the Devil.
No, worse.
Worse? Oh, my God.
Yeah, especially when you think of how I grew up and what I love to do and how much time I spend in the water.
Okay, Jaws.
No, Jaws wasn't out yet. This was the uncut original Jaws, not Hollywood version.
Okay.
And folks, you're going to have to Google this. My wife did when I told her. She's like, I never heard of it. And then she was like, oh my God.
Wow.
It was called Blue Water
White Death. Yes, I remember that. Blue Water White Death.
Unrated, not a movie, a documentary of real life great white shark attacks.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I mean, we're not talking Shark Week here. This is like, seeing somebody get ripped apart by a great white shark.
Yeah, like that guy over in the Mideast that was on YouTube last summer.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Can you believe it? Mom and Dad took me to that.
I can't.
5 years old.
I can't believe they went to see it.
I know. I can't believe it either.
Wow.
But they take me, a little 5-year-old, to the drive-in. I'm watching these people get ripped apart by sharks for 2 hours. That's how long this thing is. It's unrated. It's not even rated R. It's unrated because it was unrateable.
Wow.
It was so violent. And here I am, like I swim in the ocean constantly.
Oh my God.
Who knows, folks? I mean, we took a tangent here, but, you're getting to know Bill and I.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, let's let it rip, man. 'Twas the night before Christmas.
Now step back. Picture me here in North Carolina with my stocking cap on. The moon is out. Venus is up in the southern sky. Jupiter and Saturn are out over the Atlantic to my left. And we're going to read an adaptation of the great Clement Clark Moore's poem, 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The camera was loaded and set up with care, in hopes that a large Bigfoot soon would be there. The hikers were nestled all snug in their tents, while visions of Sasquatch danced in their heads. And Bill, holding a Glock, and Kevin his cap, had just settled down for a long winter's nap. When out in the camp there arose such a clatter, I sprang from the cot to see what was the matter. Away to the tent flap I flew like a flash, tore open the zippers and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave the luster of midday to the objects aglow. When what to my wondering eyes should appear but a giant sleigh and 8 freaky creatures. With a large hairy driver, so smelly yet stealth. I knew in a moment it must be Saint Squatch. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Rougarou, now Nessie, now Yeti and Dogman. On Momo, on Champ, on Mothman, and Yowie. To the top of the tent, to the top of the trees. Now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky. So up to the mountaintop the coursers they flew, with the sleigh full of toys and Saint Squatch too. And then in a twinkling I heard up top the trampling and crunching of each huge pop. As I drew in my hand and I was turning around, into the cabin Saint Squatch came with a bound. He was covered all in hair from head to his foot, and the odor was strong and would stun many a foot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, all scary and red. His cheeks were coal, and his nose like the dead. His huge, ugly mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard of his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a stick he held tight in his teeth, and the stench it encircled his head like a wreath. He had broad shoulders and was 9 feet tall, The cabin shook like jelly when he rolled into it like a ball. He was broad and lean, a right angry old beast, and I froze when I saw him, in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread, except for the smell. He spoke not a word, but went straight to work, and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying his finger aside of his nose, and giving a nod, out the cabin he rose, and left a huge hole in the roof. He sprang to the sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew, like a high-powered cruise missile. But I heard him exclaim ere he drove out of sight, "Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night." But it sounded like Chinese or Russian gibberish.
Bravo, old chap, bravo.
Gotta love it, gotta love it. Gotta love it.
Yeah, it's a little odd. You remember the cartoon Fractured Fairy Tales?
Oh, yeah.
That's what that version of the 'Twas the Night Before Christmas is.
Maybe.
Oh, it's awesome, man. Wow.
It's a winner.
Yeah, that's good stuff, man. Good job, bro. Good job.
It's a winner. It's a classic. And thank you to Clement Clark Moore's family for not suing us for adopting that. Of course, we love the original 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. We're just trying to have some fun with it with Sasquatch.
Of course. Yeah, no, I don't think anybody would take offense.
I don't think anyone's listening either.
Yeah. I remember, Kev, when you said, when we started doing this, like, I'd be lucky if there was one person listening, right?
Yeah.
And look what's happened,
Oh, it's crazy.
Pretty cool.
Absolutely crazy.
So, anyways, where are we going now? Cryptids in the news.
So we're going to talk about some Christmas cryptids.
Okay.
And we've covered some of these before, Bill, but they're just fantastic. So,
oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're going to touch on them a little bit again. I know you won't be disappointed with that. So, first off, we start with, the origin, a lot of the origin of Santa Claus, and I'm not giving anything away, folks. It goes back to a saint called Saint Nicholas.
Right.
And Saint Nicholas was around probably close to 2,000 years ago. Mm-hmm. And he was always doing very good things in the age of the Byzantine Empire, where they were trying to punish Christians back then for doing things wrong. Mm-hmm, and he was always trying to, save children, help children. He was trying to help. One of the stories I always remember is when he was, he put gold coins out in the stockings of these three ladies that they had hanging up to dry by the fireplace. This is the legend. Mm-hmm. And the gold coins were so that, because they were very, very poor. And back then, you had no chance of being married unless your father could pay a dowry to the folks to take you on.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a weird tradition, but it was reality back then. It wasn't like a nice to have. So he brought these gold coins for these women as a dowry, and they ended up being married and, having a lot of children and things like that, and being happily ever after, so they say.
Right.
But what's interesting about that, Bill, I've told you about it, and I don't remember how it went for you, because my brother's, quite a few years older than me, 7 years older than me, and I was the youngest in the family, and my parents were worn out by the time I came along, so we had some weird traditions, no traditions, and of course we would see Blue Water, White Death, whether I wanted to or not.
The Christmas Spectacular.
We used to do St. Nicholas Day. I don't know if you did, Bill. I seem to think you didn't.
No, we didn't. But I remember you kind of touching on it with me.
Right. And St. Nicholas Day is much different than Christmas, and that's where you used to put straw out under your pillow or under your bed. I did both, just to make sure St. Nicholas stopped by. And then you would get gold chocolate coins. not a lot of them, maybe 5 or 6 gold chocolate coins. So these are chocolate coins with the gold wrapper on the top.
Yeah, I remember them, and you don't really see them anymore.
No, you don't really see them anymore. And it was a real treat. And traditionally, St. Nicholas Day, I don't know the date exactly, but it's around like December 10th or so. So it's before Christmas, but that's when. And a lot of people in Europe celebrate St. Nicholas Day still today, but we never really latched onto it fully here in the U.S. It's more of a European thing.
Yep.
But where we start to get to the creep is apparently St. Nicholas, later on in his life, he would have a sidekick that would come along with him in Europe. And, so he'd bring presents to your house, but he would bring along his friend or sidekick. I'm not sure they were friends. Named Krampus. And the good children would get gifts from St. Nicholas, and Krampus would leave and mercilessly beat the naughty kids. And shove them into his sack and carry them off.
Well, deservedly so.
Well, they were naughty.
Yeah, you're a naughty little bugger, and whack.
Bugger. So you're not really worried about getting coal in your stocking? How about if I just beat the crap out of you and put you in a bag and take you away? That's how they roll in Europe, Bill.
Good riddance.
We do coal. They do Krampus.
Oh, my God. Krampus.
And, of course, we've talked about it, Bill. They do all these parades, especially in our homeland of Germany, where people dress up with these goat heads and goat horns and come out at night and scare the bejesus out of one another, dressed up like Krampus.
I told you, Kev. Did you send that video to me, or was it somebody else about the Krampus parade in, Tennessee, and the people were
somebody, one of our fans sent that.
The people were up in arms and getting the local government to shut it down. We don't want this
stuff. Shut down the Krampus parade.
Yeah.
Which is quite reasonable, by the way.
I mean, these guys are just evil, and they're marching along with torches burning like they're going to Frankenstein's castle or something.
Exactly. Burn it!
Burn them down! Burn them down!
You can see how easily that would get out of control, right?
Sure, especially if I was there.
I mean, it's out of control right out of the gate, to be fair.
This podcast is out of control.
Goat head and goat horns on and the cape, and you start carrying a torch. I think you've crossed the line.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, it's like Christmas Eve.
Yeah, and when that becomes the greatest opportunity of your life, you've crossed over.
You've crossed over.
When you can't wait.
I won't say there's no coming back, but you need some help to come back from there.
You need to be beaten and thrown in the sack.
Exactly. Oh, boy.
Amazing, man. Amazing. So is this a rumor that Krampus was sidling basically St. Nicholas, or this was like an add-on through the ages?
No, well, this is an ancient legend, and it doesn't really mean that they would come to your house together.
Okay.
I don't know that they hung out together. I don't believe that. But I do believe that, this legend of Krampus would come along and take care of the bad kids.
Okay. Boy, oh boy, man. I mean, the more we look upon this stuff, the more we talk about it, dwell on it, whatever, they had some really hardcore, brutal traditions over in Europe.
They still have them.
Yeah.
Though.
I mean, with the children and whatnot.
I mean, that's the crazy thing. They still do it.
Listen, I work with a young woman now. She came into our flock a while back, intelligent. She's from Latvia.
Yeah.
And she tells me stories of Latvia. One of the things they did in grammar school, it was supervised, but they took the whole class out deep into the middle of a forest with a compass and made them find their way out.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, this is like, kindergarten stuff.
I was going to say, this is kindergarten.
Yeah, I mean, and this, can you imagine rolling like that? What were we doing in court? We'd lay our heads down on the table. We had 3 cents for a container of milk and
I
like
was going to
4
say, we have a little thing of milk. What was it, a pint or a half pint?
half pint.
And some 3 vanilla cookies.
Yeah.
And then we took a nap. And in Latvia, they're taking them out to the forest.
With a compass.
And getting them lost with a compass. Man, I hope we never go to war with Latvia.
And I showed her that book that I bought, Kev.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
The Ultimate Shock-Headed Peter. And she said to me, she looked at it kind of like with a nod and said, "That's nothing next to what my grandmother used to read to me." And I looked
So maybe that's where Mom and Dad were picking up, taking me to Blue Water White Death as a 5-year-old.
Oh, my God. And, folks, this book, which was originally in German,
Jawohl.
The Ultimative Strompelte, which is the ultimate shock-headed Peter. It's a book about a variety of troubles that children might get into, like playing with matches, biting, chewing on their thumbs, biting their nails, and shows ultimately what will happen to them if they
penalty
continue.
if they do these things.
Right. And the artwork will show like a child with his thumb getting chopped off and blood squirting out and the body laying on the floor bled
We probably
to
should have
death.
put the warning out already that you should have tucked the kids in.
I mean, it's a cartoon gore fest, but
it's
legitimate.
Brutal, yeah.
Anyways, Kev, I didn't mean to go. But
No, it's awesome. It ties right into Krampus.
Yeah, unbelievable. By the way, folks, Bigfoot Terror in the Woods podcast. But in the first section, cryptids in the news and other oddities, as you can hear, it's free game for whatever we come up with.
Yeah, and we'll cover some more stuff in the news, but this is a Christmas edition.
Yeah.
We've got plenty to talk about with drones and stuff, but we'll come back to that. Don't worry.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, our next evil cryptid. We got 2 more that I'm going to cover.
Okay.
This one is called Perchta. 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 And on New Year's Eve, Perchta roams the earth, rewarding those who are hardworking and generous, and punishing the idle and greedy. Get this.
Okay.
Cover the kids' ears. Her punishment of choice involves slashing open your stomach.
Nice.
So she may violently rip out your intestines, which are then replaced by straw, rocks, and trash.
Dirty deeds and they're done dirt cheap.
The tradition of having goose for Christmas is sometimes linked to witches like Perchta, who is often depicted as having a goose foot, along with the belief that goose fat enabled witches to fly. Oh, it gets better.
A goose foot?
Goose foot. So in many places, such as Switzerland, Perchta rides with a throng of demonic-looking helpers, known as Streghelli.
Oh, the witches.
Yes.
Yes.
And they love to partake of the feast of offerings left out for them on Christmas by people hoping for Perchta's blessings of wealth and health in the new year. In some places, Streghelli get to dole out the punishments themselves and aren't terribly discerning as they rob all bad children and tear them to pieces in the air.
Yeah, I can see the body parts falling from the sky, You're out in your horse and buggy and a freaking forearm slaps you in the face.
I promise some gore.
You got the gore there going on, man.
All right, now we're going to take old time and bring it a little bit to modern time to wrap things up.
Okay.
We're going to talk about Belsnickel.
Belsnickel.
You remember Belsnickel?
I do. He's another one that beats children, right?
Maybe.
Maybe.
In some German and Pennsylvania Dutch communities, Belsnickel shows up a couple of weeks before Christmas. Filthy and dressed in rags and furs to beat children who have misbehaved. As an 1872 Philadelphia newspaper recounted, Mr. Belsnickel makes his personal appearance dressed in skins or old clothes, his face black as a bell, a whip, and a pocket full of cakes or nuts, and either the cakes or the whip are bestowed upon those around. Back in the 19th century, it was popular for rowdy revelers to go belsnicking and get drunk, vandalize the city, and play pranks.
What a night out, huh?
It's a little bit of Krampus for you.
Oh, man. You know, I saw some artwork about this Belsnickel character.
Oh, yeah, it's classic.
It showed kids, like, lashed to trees, and he was beating them and stuff. I mean, this stuff is just off the charts. Really.
Oh, and Krampus, I posted in the years past, Bill, where you have that early Christmas card from the 1900s.
Yeah.
People would send this out as a card in Germany, and it has this evil Krampus with goat horns and stuff with a big basket that he's carrying over his shoulder with two little kids in it.
Right, and inside there's a little warm inscription. Best wishes this holiday season.
Exactly.
Love Rudolph and Werner.
Yes, watch out for Krampus. He still may come. And by the way, Bill, those stories, and to all of you out there, about the monsters of Christmas come from a great article that's probably about 12 years old now from Atlas Obscura. Our friends at Atlas Obscura. I got to give them credit. So they went out and did all that research.
Fantastic, man. Good stuff, man.
Yeah.
Good stuff. And we can also thank Werner and Hildegard for their participation.
Yes. And watch out for Krampus.
Well, Kev, I have a pretty interesting Bigfoot account here. And let me jump into it.
Let's go.
This fellow's name is Harry Montrose, a resident of the state of Colorado. And I was kind of uncertain how to label this story. Harry was hunting with a bow and a rifle and actually had two sightings in two different states. But in any case, this is what Harry had to say. As you know, Bill, I do a little hunting show seen on TV, and he does. I won't tell you what it is. I don't even know if it's still on. And being a fan of what you do, I decided to get in touch with you and share my experiences seeing the hairy man. One was up close and more personal, while the other was at quite a distance, and I'll begin with the former. I was back hunting deer in my home state in one of my favorite go-to spots for tagging big bucks. The question being at the time, which trail to sit on? I had scoped out the patterns of the area's bucks for 3 days, seeing 6 to 8 large bucks passing through this one trail for several days straight just before sunset. I parked about 300 yards away, hiking in to prepare my blind at about 3:30 in the afternoon. There was a small clearing in the brush, the trail running right through the middle of it, where I decided to cut myself a hole in the bushes, allowing me a clean shot while sitting up against a tree with a boat cushion behind my back. From where I sat, it was about 25 yards to the brush on the other side, 30 yards of clear lane left and right to shoot in, with a scraggly old tree interfering with my center lane. I don't know what kind it was, but it looked like, let's say, a crabapple. I had cut a shelf out of the bramble, with the bottom section hiding me behind it. The top being cleared gave me the lane to shoot. The first animals that came through were a doe and 2 fawns, followed by a small buck a few minutes later. I, of course, was glad to see activity, but was still well short of the time the big bucks had been coming through, so I waited. Now, I want to set you up, so to speak, paving the way visually for what happened. I am concealed in the blind, complete with face paint camo, sitting against this tree as still as possible. The animals that had come through first paused in the clearing, not being startled, and having walked on without a hitch, confirming to me they did not know I was there. About 5:45, a large buck came in, stopping right behind this tree I told you about. Blocked from my taking a shot, which I would have. He was a solid 8-pointer. I was waiting for a shot to open when he moved past the tree. Suddenly, he flipped his head backward and leapt clear into the brush on the other side, disappearing. Something had startled him, and it was not me, mind you. I had not heard or seen a thing, just a buck in front of me. My heart was racing having seen this, and honestly, whatever occurred, I thought the evening was wasted as far as scoring a buck was concerned. 10 minutes after the buck had bolted, I heard a snort, like a pig, coming from my right-hand side out of view. Moments later, there was some rustling in the bushes as stepping into view came this badass Bigfoot. I shrugged down as low as I could, looking at it through the twigs, hoping and praying it would not come to me. I know that you always say to carry more gun than you think you're going to need, and there I am sitting with a compound bow, a Bigfoot 50 feet away from me. I felt that I was going to lose my bowels as it took 3 steps, stopping in front of the tree, exactly where the buck had been. Looking around for a moment, including in my direction, followed by moving forward on the trail and away to my left. It was a solid 7-foot-tall, thick and burly monster with a body like the world's most muscular man and then some. The face was blackened when it turned towards me, including its eyes, which were like 2 black marbles. I swore it looked right at me in the bushes, something telling me that it knew I was there but did not care, being concerned about the whereabouts of the area's deer and not me. I never felt so helpless in all my life, it being more intimidating than anything you could or would imagine. Its mere presence threatened me, and that is the God's honest truth. It had come down the trail the locals were using and continued after stopping, telling me it was aware of where the groceries were on its home turf. I did not know about its presence for the 3 days prior, as well as on my previous stints in this location having seen nothing. Was it always there, or had it just made its way through this region going to somewhere else? Your guess is as good as mine. The crazy thing was that on many of my hunts, I had a buddy filming, sitting with me on the ground or in a tree, but on this day, I had gone solo. Steve not feeling well, having stayed behind. He could hardly believe what he was hearing out of my mouth, knowing that I was not one to spin a yarn about anything relative to a hunt. That was 2017, having wholly altered my psyche about hunting. The fact that I know it's genuine and highly formidable is enough to make you feel uneasy, anywhere at any time, regardless of what you're carrying for defense. I'm not even sure my broadhead could prevent it from killing me. That's the kind of monster I'm talking about. I felt utterly helpless and insignificant when it entered the clearing, which is the truth. Now, my second sighting happened in Utah this past year in 2022. I was using a black powdered rifle driving around in these plains, glassing deer out in the brush. The entire area was covered in this gray, twiggy, low growth as far as the eye could see, covering some rolling hills with some trees and mountains as the backdrop. The plan in this region is to locate deer with the truck and binoculars, then to park and hike in, using the landscape's grade as cover to get in close. We had seen a big buck rummaging in the brush, ducking off the opposite side of the hill, stopping the truck and deciding to hike in. The distance at the top was about 400 yards through the brush. The closer we got to the top, the slower we stalked, fully expecting this buck to pop up at any moment, head down in the brush, which is how we had first spotted him. The last steps were as slow as molasses, and we were now looking over the other side with no buck seen. These critters can bolt at the drop of a pin, and that is precisely what had happened, being nowhere in sight. Now, squatting down in the brush, we began to glass the area before us, hoping to catch something else out in the valley, when this dark and lean figure appeared out of the trees at about 700 yards. Immediately, as hunters, we identified what we saw as being Bigfoot and nothing else. It is very distinct in its build and its walk. There is no chance of considering it to be anything else. Maintaining the same distance from us during the entire sighting, it had traversed a good quarter mile, walking behind a stand of green trees, and that was the end of it. 2 sightings, bro. One on the hunt, and the other one also on the hunt, but in a different set of circumstances.
Wow. Good stuff.
Pretty crazy, huh?
Fantastic.
Yeah, really mind-blowing.
I love in the first one where he's describing, like, looking into the eyes of the creature.
Yeah, like when they're staring at you and you swear, he sees me.
No, and that one, like, sometimes they're, I don't know, shy's not the right word, but knowing that they don't want to be seen, stealthy.
Yeah.
Whereas then there's other ones that, like, seem to look through your soul.
Yeah, like they just and
this
the
one was in that camp, right?
Right, like shark eyes, black as coal.
Yeah,
just like
shark eyes. That's a good way to do it.
Yeah, just like deadening, looking at you like death.
Yeah.
But apparently, if it was looking at him, it was, like he said, more interested in where are the deer. He's creeping up on a deer, obviously.
Give me, don't compete with my food chain.
And I'll let you live.
Or you can enter my food chain.
Yeah. I prefer venison to human.
In a not so positive way. You look kind of bony.
Oh my God. That's it, man. These 2 crazy sightings. One in Colorado and the other one. Where was the other one? What was the second one? Did he say? Utah. Colorado and Utah. Incredible, man.
Yeah. And black powder hunting in the second one, right? I think you said. Bill?
A lot of serious hunters, prefer to mix it up,
Yeah, they're bow hunting, they're rifle hunting, they're black powder hunting.
Right, shotgun.
Yeah.
Whatever the season is, or the area they're allowed to hunt in was whatever they can use,
No doubt about it. Well, that's part of it too, like what they're allowed to hunt with during that season.
Yeah, I know Danny. Danny, my buddy Danny. Yeah. On the island, they have bow hunting, and then there's a couple of areas like out at Montauk where they open up a shotgun season. And he likes to do both, and then he goes upstate with a rifle. So, it's interesting.
I'm glad they don't use rifles out in on the North Fork, right? Or on the South Fork.
No. But I tell you, I was riding up through Pennsylvania once in a car. And I didn't realize it at the time. It happened to be deer season. And off of the sides of the road, going through the hills up there, I could not believe how many orange hats and vests I saw with rifle-toting hunters.
Oh, yeah. Same here, Bill, in North Carolina.
There was so many, I said, you could get hit with a stray bullet at any time. I mean, there was so many dudes walking around that A rifle shot? There's no way it was going to stop at, 600 yards,
No.
Crazy, man.
No, really crazy.
So, anyways, that's it, Kev. What do we have in our listener mail?
Yeah, let's go to listener mail here. So we got a couple of good letters we're going to cover, a couple of good emails. And the first one comes from our friend Brad. And he says, and this is about, the Bigfoot sightings related to upside-down trees that we've covered.
Okay.
And he says, greetings, WJ and KJ from Indiana. A few episodes back, WJ covered the topic phenomena of Bigfoot and seeing a tree shoved into the ground, root side up, and had mentioned that he knew someone who was a logger who had done the very same thing to mark, the edge of the logging area.
Uh-huh.
Right? You recall that, Bill?
Yep.
And he says, for some reason, this has made me wonder after watching Expedition Bigfoot and even Alaskan Killer Bigfoot and seeing the same tree structures. Makes me wonder how many of those were done by loggers or a Bigfoot. Thanks for doing what you do. You bring joy to us listeners with the tales of cryptids and other oddities, and not to mention the tales of that hairy man we all love. God bless you both during the holidays, Brad.
Yeah, now, Brad, two things. The one in Expedition Bigfoot on Prince of Wales Island, where they found a number of the trees. A friend of the podcast and a consequent friend of mine now for many years was logging on Prince of Wales, and their crew put those trees upside down.
So literally those trees.
Those trees in that area, which shows you that these things happen. And I learned through him that loggers are also notorious pranksters. Vis-a-vis, Rich told me, like, they would find an old truck engine in the woods and hoist it up with a machine into the crotch of a tree.
Right.
Knowing that really nobody was around there, but thinking that someday somebody's going to see this and say, what the...
How the heck did that get there after all the machinery's gone?
Right. And, this is just being a prankster. Now, having said that, I do believe that in isolated areas, in a one-off situation, that some of these inverted trees are being put in by something. And I don't think it's a couple of guys who had nothing better to do when they were in the woods. And we're going to risk being injured in the process. So I think Bigfoot is responsible for some, obviously, tree structures, tree inversions, large branches being ripped off or snapped. But in the case of the Expedition Bigfoot show, I know the dude who was working there with a crew who did that.
Okay.
So there's... enough said, as we say,
No, and I mean, I'll go further, Bill. I'm not arguing with you over you believing Bigfoot does that too. But because Bigfoot roams so many of the same areas in the Northwest as loggers, I'd probably go with that Occam's razor principle and think most of the time when we see that, if not all the time, that could be the loggers playing pranks.
Yeah, now...
marking the boundary.
The benefit of the loggers is this. These guys are having what I would say is regular activity.
Oh, yeah.
And what I mean by that is not daily, not weekly, but over the course of the years, there are not one, not two, not three, but many sightings, tracks, visual sightings going on with them. So it's a regular happening for them, and it's no shock or surprise.
Right.
So, which brings me back to, people living in suburbia and saying, you don't know what you're talking about, pal. Well, yes, I do know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, get out of suburbia and get out there and get a job as a logger.
Yeah. And again, logging next to Bering Sea crab fishermen, may be the top spot for
man.
most dangerous
And
jobs.
What do they call that thing where they hoist the logs along on the cable?
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
They're running it along on like a log zip line.
Yeah, well,
sorts.
that unit on the cable is actually self-propelled. It has its own cable attached to it, and it has a throttle and everything, and it's diesel operated. And that hoists the logs and then pulls them back up the cable line up to the landing where they're dropped, and other machines take them and start to strip them and saw them to the right lengths and all that stuff. You know?
Right.
But very, very dangerous work, and people do get killed.
Violent place, yeah.
Yeah, very
No,
violent.
and no medical help close by.
Yeah, I don't know what health insurance is like when you're a logger. Or life insurance.
Yes.
Oh, my
All
God.
right, our last email, Bill, and this one's interesting. So I don't know if you saw it, but it comes from one of our listeners, Tanner.
Okay.
And Tanner says, "Hey, Bigfoot Terry in the Woods team. My name is Tanner. I'm one of the co-founders of Pacific Northwest Bigfoot Search and a founder of Pacific Northwest Missing Persons Project. And I stumbled across your July podcast where you talked about our team's founding incident. I enjoyed the podcast. Y'all did a great job sharing the story that the Oregonian newspaper did on us. If you're interested, I wouldn't mind coming on and chatting more with all of you. I could probably convince Kelly to join me as well. Hope you're all doing well. Merry Christmas and happy holidays from all of us in the Pacific Northwest Bigfoot search area."
Yeah, Kevin, now I reached out to Tanner and left my number. Tanner, if you're listening, I left my phone number. I want you to give me a call. We don't do live interviews on the show. Our show is pre-recorded. It's just me and my brother. But I'd love to interview you, talk to you, have a good discussion with you, probably more than once. Maybe we could become a regular buddy, you know.
Get a regular thing going.
Yeah, so like I have with many people.
Yeah, cool.
But I have great interest in their project and what they're doing. It's obviously ongoing. And love to hear from you, Tanner. So chime in with us.
Awesome.
And why don't you close this out, Kevin?
All right, folks. Merry Christmas to all of you. Thank you so much. We're going to bring another season to an end here soon with the end of the calendar year and Christmas upon us. And I just can't believe, folks, that you're all out there listening and so dedicated to podcasts and reaching out and thanking us for having an impact on your lives, and you're certainly having an impact on ours. So God bless all of you, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas!